Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Steph, and if you aren't new, then thanks for coming back. In today's video, we are finally tackling this Kallax unit, which I have been promising you guys for so long, and I finally got around to it. In this video, we will go through all of these cubes, dismantle this unit, rebuild the new unit, and put all the new cubes back. What you also don't see, but you will see in the next video, is we do more in this room. So the end result that you see is an amazing end result, but also, watch the next video as well because it gets better. So as you can see, I have dyed my hair orange for anybody that wasn't in the live. Did I have orange hair in the live? Did I have orange hair in the last video? I think it was the end of the last video. I feel like it's been a while since I posted a video. This video was supposed to release on Sunday, and obviously it did not because, you'll kind of see. When I say that this took all day, let me tell you, it took all day. I think I started this at about 10 a.m. and I finished at 10 p.m. Now, that was also taking breaks. There's the phone notification. Let me mute that for you. So obviously I did take a lot of breaks, but even if we don't count the breaks, this took me 6 hours. 6 hours? How? I have no idea. But anyway, so I was pretty exhausted. And then the next video that you see was actually the next day after this. So it was a very full-on weekend. So I never got around to doing the editing until today, which is Thursday. Also, see, when I was building those baskets, I was very concerned because the first one seemed like a really light colour compared to the rest, and I thought maybe they'd sent me different colours, but I had a look and you can't actually buy different colours, so I think it just must be the material was slightly different, and I was worried it was going to look odd, but I think once all the baskets are together it doesn't look so bad. So we're starting with the easiest baskets, which is the kids' school uniforms, because we went through those recently. So they don't need organised, they just need moved. Now, there were a few challenges that I found when doing this. First of all, we're getting a smaller unit. So this current unit holds 25 boxes, and they are fabric boxes. Most of them are stretched full to capacity, and we are moving into 16 boxes. And the boxes that we've got are these wicker basket ones, which I didn't really consider are actually quite considerably smaller. So even though they fit exactly in the same place, they're a lot thicker. And so you probably lose about 4 inches altogether, all the way around. So it was actually a bit of a challenge when trying to move things, and I'll kind of show you that as we go. So this next box that we're starting off with is what we used to call Xander's box. So Xander is my dog, so this is like dog stuff. So a lot of this hasn't been gone through since we first got him as a puppy, so a lot of it he's outgrown, or he just doesn't use, or some of the things are broken. So this one was quite an easy one to go through, but also the unit that this unit that we're getting rid of, I donated that on a free page as well as the boxes, but I did explain, the boxes, are in very used condition. I've had the boxes for about 8 years and they're impossible to clean, and I don't think they've really been replaced in that time, all of that kind of jazz. And so some of the boxes aren't reusable, and that dog one was definitely not, because what I didn't realise was there was dog treats in there. And when I say treats, I mean there was a pig's leg in there. It was disgusting. I have no idea how we didn't smell that. I don't know why it was in that box. Anyway, this next box is the medicine box. Again, not much to sort out in this box because we did that quite recently together on the channel. I say quite recently, it was probably a couple of months ago now, but to me that is fairly recently. So I have to build all the boxes, which they're very simple to put together, and I'm sorting out the recycling as we go. So cardboard is next to me, the plastic zip tie things are in front of me because they all go into the recycling, and then the actual black bag of general rubbish. Now this is our Pokemon cards box. You have all been really interested, about what are in all of these boxes, and so today's the day you find out. So these are Pokemon related items. We have several different decks that we play with. There's a couple of Pokemon Lego packets that were gifted to the kids that they haven't done, and then some loose Pokemon cards and things, as well as play mats and binders. Now one of the things that we found with these baskets is we can't fit the binders in the baskets, but it's probably for the best because we don't want them getting crushed and all of that jazz, and it makes it easier when because the binders have our collections and then the little boxes have the games that we actually play with, so we collect as well as play. So we're going to find a different place for the binders to go, probably on my bookcase in the hall, but I don't know, they might get kept in the living room because we are going to be making it a Pokemon living room. So anyway, that's another box down, and I thought I was making really quick progress, and I think the dismantling and then the rebuilding of the units did take a considerable amount of time, but we start off with quite easy boxes and then we get to like the more difficult boxes. So this is a drawing box, and I say drawing like it's papers and colouring books and pens and pencils, that kind of thing. But we have 2 of these. So my plan is to go through it so that I can condense it into one box, because realistically we don't need to. As you can see as well, like my hands have really been bothering me the last few days. I don't know if it was like triggered by all the dust or dirt when doing this, I don't know, but you'll see me itching my hands quite a lot, which I didn't even realise until I'm now watching this footage back. So anyway, that box there that you see me put down, that is actually filled with paint, and so that shouldn't be in this box. So what I'm doing first of all is putting all the pens and pencils and crayons and things together, and then separating colouring books and papers. So the paper pile that's behind me, that will be going in the bin. I'm not a very sentimental person. I don't really think that when the kids are older they will appreciate boxes and boxes of drawings and things like that. I think I keep certificates that they get, and maybe like if they have like a really nice piece of artwork that they want to keep for future self, then I keep that. But generally if it's a bit of paper with some squiggles on it, then nope, goes in the bin. I keep it for a little while so they don't just immediately see me throwing their things away. But I don't know if it's just myself as an adult, like I wouldn't care if my mum was to give me like a pile of stuff that I did when I was younger, and so I just don't keep it. But I might live to regret that. I'm not saying everybody else has to do that either. Do what works for your family. My family know what I'm like, and so yeah, so that's what we're doing. There's a couple of things I put into the keep pile and then later decide, no, don't actually need that after all. And then what I do with all the pens and pencils is some of them will work and some of them won't, but I wasn't ready to test that out right now. So what I actually do is put them all into a bag, and then I think there's a clip later you'll see Lily and Daddy going through them, and because she wanted to help, so we gave her some paper and says, okay, you start testing these pens. So they do that together. And then I think Arthur and Madison also get involved and do that a little bit as well. So that's why you don't see me testing them all, and they do end up back in the box. Although I have a feeling when it swapped between Madison and Arthur, there was a bit of a mix-up, because when I went back into that box the next day, there were a few pens that definitely should not have been in there, and I'm like, wonder if they accidentally mixed up the piles. Anyway, I was quite ruthless. By the time I got to the bottom where it's just like little bits, I'm like, okay, we've definitely got enough pens and things, so the rest of this can just go. Anything that doesn't belong in this box is just going into piles behind me, ready to go into the correct boxes or to be sorted out later. We're just literally focusing on the current situation, the current box, that kind of thing. So what the result is that we condensed these 2 drawn boxes into one, and in that one box there's colouring books, whiteboard, some plain paper, just I think there's a couple of drawing tablets, that kind of thing. And so now when the kids are like, oh, I want to do some drawing or colouring, they know that they can just pull that box out and everything that they need will be in that box. And then you'll kind of see we have the same kind of set up for a few different crafts, which we will get to. Now, like I say, in a previous video I've mentioned that a couple of months ago me and Danielle started going through these cubes together. We did go through quite a few of them, and so out of these 2 drawn boxes, one of them I'd already gone through. I think it was this one, which is why there wasn't as many like pens and things in there. It was mostly the colouring books and things. So now that I've gone through the pile, I'm now kind of separating them into colouring books, bits of paper, activity books, and then I'm putting all the plain bits of paper into a folder. There was a Hanji book, which is like a puzzle drawing book. I don't know how to describe it. It was mine, but it's been kind of considerably bent out of shape, and originally I was just trying to bend it back and keep it, and then I thought, I've not looked at this in at least a year, so it's time to let it go. But now that I've let it go, I'm like, maybe I'll buy another one because I kind of want to do it. But also, who has time for it? Like, I have so much going on. I probably shouldn't sit and do handy puzzles. Should use that time for something else. But anyway, there was quite a lot of empty folders and stuff, so you'll often see me going back into this drawer to get some of those empty folders. So like, for example, in one of the later boxes, there's lots of loose stickers, and I end up going and getting one of those empty folders and doing that. And then we have those drawing pads that are in that drawing box, but then we also have some drawing pads for when we travel, and they end up, they're in a different box right now, but they end up going into a suitcase, which you will kind of see later. So when we're decluttering this unit, a lot of it is decluttering. Like, we get rid of, I think, 3 black bags of things, and then we donate a few things. But also what you see is things just getting put somewhere else. So ideally, I wasn't wanting to do as much of that. So for example, we have like 3 different boxes in here that are filled with different electrical and technological things. Is that a word? Technology things. And then, but we also have a box that's stored away in a cupboard that's for things that aren't needed every day. Like, I don't know what's even in there, like old gaming consoles that are retro that we don't want to throw away, or old wires that we need but don't necessarily need right now. I don't know. I need to go through that box. But that's just an example. So some of the technology things that we need to keep, but we don't literally need access to all the time, end up going into that box. There are some holiday things, as I mentioned, that I'm like, I might as well just keep these in a suitcase because we don't need them unless we're using the suitcase anyway, that kind of thing. So anyway, the box that we're currently going through is what I call the sticking and gluing box. So this is different types of felt or ribbon or actual stickers, different types of crafting things like straw and paper plates and tissue paper, all that kind of things. Now, this was a difficult box to like transfer simply because of the new shape of the box. It was hard trying to fit everything in. I didn't really have much to declutter because it's kind of a junk box in terms of, the different types of materials. It's like, but the kids can tear these up and make cards and do different crafts, and it's all to be kept. This was one of the boxes that were decluttered originally by me and Danielle, so there wasn't really much decluttering to do. But it does make me think, okay, well, now I'm going to have to do lots of sticking and gluing crafts with the kids to get through some of these materials, because I don't want to throw them out because I feel like that would be a waste. It's not really the kind of thing that you would donate, and so we just need to use it up. And the thing with it is, like I say, I'm not a sentimental person. I don't really keep items. So even if we make things, I'm not really going to keep the things that we make, but it's the memories and the experiences of making those things that you get out of that. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, so I can't tell you, how many breaks I've had at this point and things, because I would do a little bit and then I would take a break. And like I say, overall, it was about 6 hours doing this all. And then it was funny because I think my husband, this was a Saturday, so my husband had gone to do his Pokemon tournament thing. And so he leaves the house at like 9 in the morning and doesn't come back until like 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon. So when he got back, he was like, oh, you're still doing this, which was hilarious. I was like, yes, I'm still doing it, help me. Anyway, this is the painting box, and we have those big rolls of paper which don't fit in this basket, so that was frustrating. Anyway, so last time we did painting, we like put out quite a bit of paint into tubs because there was a whole group of us. I think actually the last time we did that was when we were painting pumpkins, so that was nearly a year ago. So they were in those plastic tubs, which I wasn't willing to throw out, but they've kind of all dried out now, even though they're in tubs, so it was time to let them go. And then old Play-Doh tubs are really good to use for either putting paint in or putting water in, that kind of thing. And so they're in there. And then I've also got like a lot of acrylic markers for doing like painting on windows and different things like that, because Halloween and Christmas I tend to like do drawings on windows, that kind of thing. So I'm looking forward to that. Madison has asked if I can do so a few years ago I did Jack Skeleton and Sally on one of our windows. So she's asked if she tidies her room, can we do something like that on her window this year? I said, yeah, that's not a problem. So we'll get the paint and stuff out to do that. And then this box is our like crafting / sewing box. So this has like hammer beads and crochet sets and cross stitch sets and other kind of beads and like puppet making and things like that. And so there was quite a few things in here that were all loose. There was threads, and one of the things that I used to sit and do when I needed to relax or I was bored is I would get the big tubs of hammer beads that are all mixed, by the way, and I'll sit and divide them into different colours, and it's quite a relaxing thing to just sit and do on an evening. And so that's why there's little baggies with all the different colours in. So that's that one done. So a lot of those boxes that we've done so far were boxes that I went through with Danielle a few months ago. So they've not been that difficult to sort out. Now what you see here is a lot of moving things around. This was something that I found in one of the crafting or the painting boxes that wasn't going to fit in the box. And so I thought, well, this is something that's kind of when it's out of sight, it's out of mind. So it's a painting set that I thought this will keep Lily entertained while I am doing this. So she did lots of painting that day. It's sponge painting, so you have the different colours, you have the different size sponges, and then she just has to follow the directions or do what she wants. So this box has some technology items in it, including cases that have DVDs and CDs in it. Now I've actually bought a couple more of those cases because we have a box that is filled with DVDs and CDs. Now you don't actually see me sorting those out. They are not sorted out. They're not in this unit anymore, but they're also not sorted out. They're in a bag ready for me to transfer into those little cases, which I might do on a live, I might do by myself, I might make somebody else do, who knows. Anyway, this box right here, this is our swimming box. So this has got all our swimming costumes and goggles and nose plugs and the bag that we use to take swimming, all of that kind of stuff that's kept in that unit. This is the box of DVDs and CDs, which as you can see, I'm just kind of emptying because I don't just put the CDs and DVDs into the cases. I like to cut out the picture of the case and stick that in with it, which is why it takes longer. So, I don't know, maybe I should change my system and not do that, and then the job would get done better, but not better, but quicker. So anyway, so all these boxes and bags that you see at the side, they're things that will get sorted out later, but that don't plan to go back into the unit. So right now, what you'll see at the end of is the unit looking amazing, but then what you don't see is the bags that are currently sitting in Lily's den that I still need to sort out. But you know, I'm transparent, I'll tell you that. But we will get to it. So this box is kind of when I do like themed hosting with my friends who are mums and their kids. So it has like our Italian themed, like all the kids' little chef outfits and Italian flags, and then it has like the Halloween themes, like the love heart plates and the fake flowers and all of that kind of stuff. And then it has like our general like placemats and things for at Christmas. So this is another technology box. So this happens in stages with the technology boxes. There are 2 boxes that have technology in, and then there's a 3rd box that has electronic stuff in. Now the thing that distinguishes them is that the 2 boxes with the technology in are the boxes that the children access, and that's where they put their computer things and games and all of that kind of stuff. And then the electronic box is more like, oh, this is an electric bike pump, or this is a light bulb, or batteries, that kind of thing. But what we do is we do manage to condense all 3 boxes into one of the straw boxes, and that's just the stuff that we need to be accessible. So what I do is, first of all, I go through, I am decluttering, I'm separating into categories, you know, if it's a games case or like a game that's going separately. If it is a wire or something that is broken, that is obviously going in the bin. If it is an old console that we know we're probably going to be donating, that's going in a separate pile. And then there's a bag of stuff that I'm thinking, okay, we probably need to keep this, but I don't know what it all is. So it goes into a bag, and then you will get to see my husband sorting some of that out. So it's definitely something that is done in waves, because first of all, I think this is what took the most time was, you know, a lot of these things are tangled. Some of them I'm like, yes, I know we definitely don't need this, we don't use this. And some of them I'm like, I have no idea what this is. And then I show it to my husband and he's like, oh yeah, that's for such and such and that's for such and such. Not because he's any good with like this kind of thing, but because most of the things are for his old Game Boys. And he's like, yeah, that's a Game Boy Advance charger. Did you not know that? It's that time of day when kids start coming home from school, so Xander might start getting a little bit noisy. So anyway, this is around the time that my husband comes home and is like, oh, you're still doing this? And that's when he starts helping. So you will get to see him come in and out of frame now. And, this is the kind of task that I would typically do over a period of days or weeks or that kind of thing. But it's also one of those kind of tasks that I'm like, yes, today's the day we're going to do the big project. Now, I wanted to give up on this so many times. It was very painful sitting on the floor for this length of time, even despite having breaks and things. And it was just such a tedious, long process that I would have given up. However, we invited friends to come round the next day, and so that it wasn't an option. And because I listed the unit on a free page for somebody to come and get, they were coming to collect it, and so I needed to have it all sorted out. And because I'd listed the actual boxes on the page, I couldn't just take all the boxes out and let them have the unit. I had to have it all sorted out so that they could take the boxes as well. So I set myself these challenges to make sure that I followed through and did the task. Now, on the one hand, it's great because the task got done, but on the other hand, there wasn't an option. And so it felt very much like a chore. Like, I have to do this. I'm not doing this because I want to. I actually have to do it, kind of thing. Even though it was something I wanted to do, it's just the way my brain works. It was like, you don't want to do this now because you have to do it, kind of thing. But we pushed through and we got it all done. And the relief that I have felt since doing this is been amazing. That's what I wanted to tell you guys as well. The person who collected the unit has an amazing story. So they had said that I think they've got like 5 kids or 6 kids, or they've got a lot of kids. Also, I would totally meant to cut this out. I do not like eating on camera. My husband turned up and he was like, have a cookie. I was like, yes, please. It's at this point as well that I realised I don't think I'd actually eaten that day either. So I was like, yes, I'll definitely take a cookie, and can you make a cup of tea? Anyway, so this family that collected this unit, they, for some reason, have had to, like, for their own safety, move out of their house and into some sort of protected housing. And they're waiting on getting like furniture and all of these kinds of things, and they're literally just living out of suitcases. They had to literally leave everything behind. I don't know what happened, but it sounds dramatic. And so they were like, this unit will be an absolute godsend because we'll actually be able to, put our clothes in something in a way. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, do you need anything else? In about a month, I'm planning on redoing Kai and Lily's room. I will have a toddler bed and a mid-sleeper that you can have. Just get in touch, let me know. So yeah, I don't know what their story is, but it sounds like they've got a lot going on. So I was really glad that I was able to, donate the unit to them. Oh, my hand is starting to cramp from holding this phone to do the voiceover. It's been a while since I did a long video. And let me tell you, by the way, there was literally 6 hours of footage for me to cut down and speed up and all of that stuff. So when it comes to actually dismantling and building the unit, that is sped up way faster than what I normally do it. But there was some errors made when building, which, I mean, you have seen me do DIY before. That's always going to happen. I always get it wrong to start with, but we get there in the end. So as you can see, like I say, my husband is coming in and out of shop. I didn't realise how dark it was getting until he put the light on. And so we're still going through the 3 boxes of technology. Does anybody remember when I said it would be really cool if there was an app that, you take a picture of the wire that you have or the technology item that you have and you put it on the app and then it somehow tells you what it is or what it's for? Did anybody ever check if that exists? Because I always forget until I'm doing this, and then I'm like, I wonder if that exists. And now that I'm doing this voiceover, I'm wondering again. So somebody check and let me know, because I'm going to forget immediately after doing this again until the next time. I also realised it probably would have been a good thing to have like some sort of clips or zip ties to try and keep the wires that we do keep from getting tangled. Also, a lot of what you see from now on is like me talking to my husband as well. A lot of this stuff, like I was doing so well at sorting out things like, yes, we need this, we don't need this is broken. But I don't know, as the second he was there, I kind of defaulted to, you know, the submissive woman, like, oh, do we need this thing? Do we need this thing? I don't know why. I always just get stupider around other people. I can no longer think for myself. But yeah, he did make the process a lot easier because it kind of skipped one of the steps. So rather than me being like, I'll put this separately and he can decide if it's if it's something we need, I was able to just be like, do we need this? Do we need this? And then I still put everything separately into a pile that he then goes through, because he then decides if it's going to get tested to see if we can donate it, or if it's going to get put away long term, or if it's going to go into the accessible box. Although I think he was getting a little overwhelmed. So I'm all about piles. I will categorize and put things into different piles. As you can see, I'm surrounded by different piles, but I know what every single one of those pile is. Now, when he started going through things, because he's like sitting off camera right now, but the camera will turn to him in a little while. When he starts going through the bags, he starts with like 2 piles, and then he's like, oh, what should I do with this? And I'm like, oh, it can go through to the living room. And then he would then start getting up to put it in the living room, and I'm like, no, put it in a pile. You don't just stop what you're doing to then take something away. I was like, put it in a pile, and then once you've got a few things, or once you're done, you can then go and put the piles where they're meant to go. But he started getting overwhelmed with all the piles, so it just shows how differently our brains work, because my pile system was not working for him. And I wonder if that's the case when I'm organising somebody else's house and I'm working with Danielle, because I'm always the one that's like, this is the category of this and this and this and this, and she's just kind of sitting next to me looking at all these, and she's like, where does this go, where does this go, where does this go? And I'm like, my brain's the one keeping track of all the piles. And how does everybody else organise? Do you, if you find something that doesn't belong, do you then get up and take it straight away to the area that it's meant to go, or do you then put it in a pile to take away? Also, I show you guys things on the camera and then never slow anything down, and so we found so many old phones, like Nokia 3310, except it wasn't a 3310, it was a different type of Nokia, but I don't know any other Nokia names, so we're just rolling with that. There was a Motorola, there was a Sony Ericsson, which I thought was his, but he thought was mine, and we're like, no idea whose phone it was. There was so many different things. Like, we already know we have the old game consoles, like Game Boy Advance and DS and all that stuff, because we re-bought them later. So yeah, so it was really fun discovering things. And then there was like things like this, there was a light bulb that I found, and we were trying to figure out, you know, what light bulb is this for? Do we even still have this lamp, or this, what is it called when it's in the wall? It's not a lamp, like light fixture, maybe? I don't know. So yeah, and then there was one that I found, and I was like, oh, this looks like one of those color changing ones. Maybe that's what this remote's for. And then I later found like a whole pack of them, and I was like, okay, so they're not the color changing ones. What are those for? Who knows? So we found lots of Switch games and lots of Switch cases, and so it's just trying to find the right games for the right cases, because they're on a shelf in our living room, so they can get put separately there. There's like 4 or 5 laptops there. Pretty sure none of them work. But they all also have like personal information on. So we're going to need to somehow take them somewhere that they can get all of our photos and files and everything off of them. And then I found a couple of different switches. We all tend to play Switch Lite these days rather than the actual Switch. But somehow there was like a controller missing from one of the switches. Like, how does that even happen? So anyway, we're now kind of at the stage, we've gone through everything, and this is the box where the actual things that need to be accessible and that we're keeping are going into. And so this was when I realised that my husband was getting overwhelmed with the piles, and so I go over and I'm like, okay, well, this can go in here, this can go in here, and kind of helped him out a little bit. Then I think I realised that you guys can't see anything that's happening, and so I do believe I turned the camera, but that might not happen yet. Anyway, comment in, because I need some interaction, guys. I've been talking solidly for 23 minutes now. So let's ask some engagement questions for the algorithm gods. Comment and let me know what your favorite category was that you see me sorting through. So like, what was the thing you were least expecting, or what was the most interesting category you see? Obviously we're not done, we still have quite a few categories to go. The hardest part was I got down to about 7, I had 7 boxes left to sort through, and I think I only had like 2 wicker baskets. And I was like, okay, I have to somehow get these 7 categories combined into these 2 baskets. It was crazy. That's when I started getting really stressed out. Because I already knew which categories I needed and which ones I wanted. Somebody had suggested when I was, questioning, do I get a smaller unit? Do I just get the wicker baskets? Like, what should I do? Somebody says, why don't you write down all the categories that you need and want and then base it off of that? But the thing is, like I've mentioned, I'm very good at categorizing things. So when me and Danielle originally went through this unit, we managed to get like 4 empty boxes. And then since then, I've then filled them with things. So we didn't used to have the swimming box category. That just came about because we were keeping all our swimming stuff in bags in the cupboard. But then it became, instead of 1 bag, it became like 3 bags. So then whenever we needed our actual up-to-date swimming stuff, it was impossible to find. So that's why I then introduced a swimming category into the boxes. And then there's another category, this category here, the holiday category. Before this, we'd never actually been abroad or anything, so we didn't have a holiday box. This was all just stuff when we got, there's some other random things in there now, but when we got back from Turkey, this was all things that I'd bought for like traveling and things like that. So we didn't previously have this stuff. So when we got back, rather than sorting it all out and putting it where it should go, I just kind of chucked it all in this box and said, this is now the holiday box. And so it's very easy when you have the space to create categories, and as long as things have a home, you think that's fine. It has a home, that stuff's fine where it is. But what's the limit? I could fill my house with Kallax cubes and storage, and it would just be filled with stuff. And the more space is in like boxes and cupboards that I have, the more I'm just going to fill them with stuff. And so that's why I decided to go with the smaller unit, because I do feel like that's the only way I'm going to downsize our stuff. So what I'm doing here is the stuff that we definitely are only going to use for when we travel or go on holidays is getting put into the suitcase, and then this suitcase is going back in the cupboard because originally it was sitting empty anyway, and we're only going to use that stuff when we need that suitcase, so it makes sense. And then there you go, there's a full category gone. It hasn't been transferred into another box, that kind of thing. Now this was another one of those boxes that was difficult to fit things in. So this box is supposed to be for loose games, so either games that don't have boxes or games that have lots of little parts that need to be kept together, or card games, that kind of thing. Now, as you know, all this pile of stuff next to me, that's off the top of the unit. This is all the board games, and then we have a basket for smaller games. So what I decided to do, because the Hungry Frogs and the Connect 4 don't have boxes, but they also don't fit in this basket, I decided to take them out, and the small card games and little games that are in that basket I put into the Kallax cube, and then the Hungry Frogs and the Connect 4 go into the basket, and then they will sit on top of the unit. And then I think there was some random things in that little basket at the top as well, which is like my sewing box or something like that. But anyway, we come back to that later. There was also some things that I originally decluttered, and then they somehow did not leave the house and ended up back here. Also, when I was sorting out the box that has like the loose game parts, I found some parts that could get put with their original games, like there was marbles to go with Kerplunk, that kind of thing. Also, sorry, I keep saying also a lot. I'm very conscious that I'm saying it a lot, but it's hard to stop. With the games that are down the side, obviously they are originally from on top of the unit, and then when we get the new unit, you'll see me putting them all back. But in the next video, I actually do another, actually you don't see it in the video because I never recorded me doing it, but recently you've seen me do a declutter of the board games that were on top of that unit. Now when I say that decluttering happens in stages, this is a good example of what I mean. So obviously a few weeks ago I decluttered the games that were on top of the unit, But then a couple of days ago, after doing this, I then decluttered those games again, and I've gotten rid of a further 8 games that we definitely don't need. They were kind of, when I did the original declutter, they were like not sure if we should keep or get rid, so I'm going to keep anyway category. But then now that I've done, like, I've come back to it with fresh eyes and done another pass through, I've gotten rid of another few games. So if you start to declutter and you're doing it and you feel really overwhelmed and you don't want to keep going, it's okay to stop and to come back another time with fresh eyes and do it again. And so it's the same when you're doing a clothes declutter. What you want to keep and get rid of will also depend on your mood and the time of year and the time of your monthly cycle, that kind of thing. So do one pass through when decluttering, and then wait a couple of weeks or a few days or however long, a couple of months, whatever you want to do, and then do another pass through. It's a complete ongoing process. So this box is probably the one that it would be most interesting. I didn't realise you can't even really see what's in it, but this is what's called the Mum's Project box, and it's filled with everything, like, because it's basically, I get all these little project ideas and I'm like, yes, let's do that. Anyway, so it had scrapbooking, it had little cross stitch things, it had, like, that was a tail that I put in there because I was supposed to sew it back onto one of the kids' onesies. That never happened. There was some different cards. There was like the invitation from my wedding. I couldn't even open this. I think it's a miniature sewing kit. There was a lot of random things in here, and we do manage to declutter quite a lot. Now, the Mum's Project box is one of the categories that I've kept because I do have a random assortment of things from different projects. This was them testing the pens that I just wanted to show you. So yeah, so I do have some random things that I'm like, I want to keep. This was a miscellaneous box, so for some reason we had like jump wires in there, so I've given them to my husband. They're now going in his car. And then all my Hoover attachments, there was some extra paints, but the paint box is full, so I was like, well, I'm not sure what to do with these yet, so I'll put them in a separate basket for now. And then Madison and me went through a stage where we were making a lot of wax melts. And so I said to Madison, okay, well, this stuff can actually go to the office. And if you want to make wax melts, we can go and do that at the office because I have more storage there. It's not something that we use all the time. And this way, if I put it in the office and she doesn't ask for it for 6 months, I'm just going to donate it all because it's something that she really got into. Like, I'm pretty sure Madison's a lot like me in terms of, like, she gets an idea and then I'm like, yes, let's do that, and we buy all of the stuff for it, and then we do it for a couple of weeks and then we never look at it again. So this was one of those things, and we even created like a business profile for her. We did everything by the book in terms of, you know, the safety labels, all of that stuff, because she was selling the wax melts. She actually said to me, she was like, can you ask your viewers if they want to buy any wax melts off me? And I was like, I'm not gonna do that. First of all, because like she doesn't watch the videos, so I'll say it to you guys, but I don't think the quality, like, we're not very good at making them, so the quality is not the best. That was a old dress, like, sewing print, so she's going to take that into school because she does fashion at school. It's not something she would personally wear, but she's going to donate it to the class for if anybody else wants to make it. So yeah, I think we might be through. Yeah, we've finished sorting all the categories. I thought there was a couple more categories in that. Anyway, the attachments from the Hoover ended up going in the Mum's Project box, and also those spare paints went in there as well. I think they're actually Madison's, and I told her, why don't you keep them in your room? But she doesn't have anywhere in her room to keep them. So I think we're going to do a tidy and declutter of her room soon, and then she can keep those extra paints in her room. But for now, the Mum's Project box is still a little bit of a miscellaneous box. But that's fine, because I also have a little miniature cupboard in the other Kallax cube unit in the living room that has like my colouring pens and some puzzle books and things like that. So all I'm doing now is moving things out of the way so my husband can lower this unit, because to dismantle it, it needs to be on the ground. And then we dismantle it, and like I say, I've sped it up quite a lot. And then like I think while I'm doing this, oh no, not yet. So everybody's kind of hovering around me and doing what they can and stuff. And then after this, my husband takes the younger kids to bed, because by this point it's like 8-9 o'clock, and because like I say, this literally took all day. That's why like halfway through you see me getting changed into my jammies. And then I build. First of all, we clean, and if anybody doesn't use the HD mold remover spray, use it, because watch what happens. You see that back wall? I've just sprayed it. Just keep your eyes on that wall and watch how quickly the mold fades away. It's incredible. Can you see it fading? Keep watching. Anyway, so I get my husband to move this freezer. I was like, while we're over here, we might as well move and clean under it and behind it. You see the mold? It's gone. It's gone off the wall. Also, that black line is a little bit of mold, but also it's a wire that goes all the way along. I don't even know what that's from, actually, that wire. I don't know what that actually connects to. I'll need to have a look. Anyway, so we're cleaning under and around the fridge. One of the things that you're going to see me do in the next video is I actually clear off that fridge, because I feel like having all those bits of paper and magnets and all of that stuff makes it look very messy and still look decluttered, even when the area has been... Sorry, did I say still look decluttered? Still looks cluttered even when the area has been decluttered. And so I clean it all off and put it all away, and we don't keep pictures on the fridge anymore, which kind of hurts my heart a little bit, because, you know, kids get excited to put the pictures on the fridge. But also I'm thinking of getting one of those frames where you just swap out the pictures every so often and putting that like in the hallway or something instead, because it just calms my mind so much to have a clear fridge. And also, I did not realise how dirty it was, so you get to see me clean that as well. So now my husband is putting the kids to bed. I am building the unit. And like I say, some mistakes are made. So you see that brown piece? I knew that was the bottom piece because it was brown. But I am putting it on upside down because I'm an idiot. So I do realise and change it. And then what you see here is I thought this would speed up the process by just hammering in all the dowel rods right at the beginning. But actually it would have been easier if I hammered the dowel rods into the longer pieces and then put the smaller pieces on. So you see me struggle. Now first of all I put that piece on and it turns out to be wrong. So then I take it off and the dowel rod gets stuck. And then when we try to take the dowel rod off, it snaps in place. So yeah, so many things went wrong in the first 10 minutes of this. That's one of the reasons I sped it up so much, so you can't see my failure. Anyway, we're kind of on a roll now. I'm like, yes, this goes here, and this is when we realised it would have been easier for me to do the dowel rods first and then the bits of wood, which is exactly, like, I just built one of these in the house that we've been doing on the 5 Free Cleaning channel. We've bought one of these units for her living room. Her living room is looking amazing now, and I just built one of these all by myself in her house. I didn't need a man's help, and so I was like, why can I not do this without my man's help? But anyway, we get there in the end, and honestly, I think it's like 10 o'clock at night at this point. But that's it done. And it doesn't, like, when you look at it like this, it's like all of this work for this, it doesn't really look like that much of a difference. But honestly, every time I walk in my kitchen, I'm like, oh, it's such a difference. And what you can't see because of the way the camera is angled is there's a big bit of artwork on this wall that was here when we moved in. And you weren't able to see it previously because of how high the unit was, and with all the board games on top, it was blocking it. But now you actually can see it. So there's about a minute left of this. If you've made it this far, listening to my rambles and watching me do all of this, thank you so much. Like, honestly, I still have imposter syndrome being a YouTuber, and I'm just so grateful for everybody that is here and that is watching me living my life and trying to get my shit together. But yeah, thank you so much. And if you do like this kind of content, please like and subscribe and all of that jazz, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.